showing our faces. So let me get the bumper up there. Hello, everyone, and welcome to iNDEEvent 2020. This is the Silverline Prospective panel. Hopefully you had a chance to see the Silverline Retrospective panel yesterday, where we talked about the origins and the formation of Silverline, and then what we did initially as a packager, and then what we did as a publisher in the late 90s. And today we're going to talk about Silverline 3.0 and everything that we're doing now and moving forward. So I am Roland Mann. I am the writer of Cat and Mouse, and I'll be talking about Trumps today and kind of the head wrangler of all this stuff. We'll just go around and introduce ourselves. Barb's next. Barb, tell everybody who you are.
I am Barb Kaalberg. I've been an inker in the industry for 30 plus years. I've worked for everybody and their dog. I'm currently inking Cat and Mouse for Silverline, also inking the new book that doesn't have a name. I am the creator and inker on Divinity, and I am also the CFO of Silverline.
Excellent. Brent, you're next on my list here. I think we all see the same thing in this software.
Could be right. I'm Brent Larson. I am the creator and writer of Kalis. I'm probably the freshest to the comic book business. I've been in for about a year and a half.
A year and a
half.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And last but not least is Scott. Scott, tell everybody who you are.
Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Wakefield, and I don't know, Brent, I might be fresher to the industry. I'm not sure. We can argue about that later. I help with Silverline's publicity. I also host our Silverline's live stream, Wednesday Wham, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm also the creator or co-creator and co-writer of Steam Patriots, a steampunk Revolutionary War comic book coming from Silverline very soon,
which we'll talk about a little bit today. I'm trying to share the event out here to various places. I'm sharing now on Facebook, so hopefully we'll get some eyeballs there. So everyone who is watching, I see some hellos there. Hey, C. Michael, what's going on, man? Holy Crusaders. Pops Van Zant says that we are in live in the madness. Thanks, Pops. Really appreciate it. Pops is always
thank you.
Sharing it for us there. Wubba says hello, everyone. Gusp says hello, everyone. So we got some people out there. So what I want to say is we're just going to start and we're going to go through. But if you guys have questions, please don't hesitate to ask the questions. I'm going to monitor all the chat from the various places. We are on Facebook, we are on YouTube, and we are on Twitch. So regardless of your platform, if you're watching, you got a question, please ask it. I may not ask it right immediately, but we'll get to it and answer your questions, because we love the questions, because that means that you're number one, paying attention, and number two, you have some stuff that you want answers for. So so today we're just going to talk about the projects that we're doing and the projects that are in the works that are coming forward. Really happy to say we got a lot going on, and it's a little bit overwhelming at times, but at other times it's incredibly exciting. So I'm just going to tell a short little story and get you started. So when Silverline 2.0 ended in early 2001, I went back to school, got a degree, and started teaching. After a few years of teaching, which I enjoy, I realized that I really missed writing. And particularly, I really missed comic books. Well, my good friend and former partner for Silverline 1.0 said, hey, man, I need you to take a look at some of these comics. And so he sent me some comics. And really what he was doing, he was fishing for an editor. So I edited a couple of books that he was working on. Book called my friend Stephen Butler. The book was called Power Mark, and realized that I like comics. How did I forget that I liked comics? And so I kind of started toying around with all the comic stuff again, and started, reaching out to some of the contacts that I hadn't talked to in a couple of years. I tried to do a Kickstarter in 2014. The book wasn't finished. I was real new to Kickstarter. So it was one of those, it's like, hey, please give us money so we can make this book. And it just didn't work. I next then met a friend of my daughter's. My daughter said, hey, my friend is an artist and she wants to do a comic. Well, I actually put my daughter off for like 4 months. I kept saying, yeah, whatever. I hear this all the time, right? And when you've been in comics enough, you hear those stories. You hear, I'm an artist, I want to do comics. Yeah, whatever. But she finally shoved her phone in front of my face, and I was like, wow, that's pretty good. Let's talk. And so we did. We sat down and we had a conversation, and that artist is Deanna Harold, and we ended up doing Tiny. And that was my second Kickstarter, and it was so much fun doing that comic with her. And I just got the goosebumps of doing comics all over again. And around the same time, I had rekindled my relationship with Dean. I never got out of the relationship with Dean, but I had kind of rekindled a lot of back and forth. And he and I had decided that we were going to do this other project, right? And Dean had been working with Barb a lot, and so he had said that we could do this project. We'll get Barb to do it, and we did a couple of pages. I think I'm pretty sure, Barb, you inked the Silverblade stuff. And it just
still got them.
Yeah, and then Dean, up out of nowhere, he says, "Roland, what about Cat and Mouse?" And I'm like, "What about them?" He's like, "Well, they're recognizable. They've got a history, and if we're going to do comics, then." Maybe we could do them. I was like, Dean, here's the deal, dude. These characters are near and dear to my heart, so don't tease me. If you want to do them, then we'll do them. And he committed, and he reached out to Barb, and Barb was like, yep, I'm on board. Let's do it, guys. We ended up then finding Kevin Gallagly, who is a former colorist at Malibu. And then we looked around and realized, hey, we've all got this Malibu connection. And we kind of started, we talked about that, reminisced about Malibu wistfully. Alex Sarabia says hi. Hey, Alex, got to get you on here. And so we did the first issue. And we had a blast, right, Barb? I mean, it was
great.
It was a lot of fun. We did a Kickstarter when we were finished. We got it out into a lot of hands. We got a lot of good and positive feedback. And then I can't remember if it was Barb or if it was Dean, but one of you said, you should restart Silverline. And of course, my first thought was like, I don't know about that. I just, I'm having fun doing Cat and Mouse. Let's just do that. But they were insistent. They kept going. And so I talked to my wife, and she's like, you should do it. And I'm like, but why? You're the one that said, no, we can't lose money. She said, you should do it, but here's your marching orders. You should do it, but you can't lose money. You can't, you don't have to make money. You can spend all this time and you can go to conventions and all that kind of shit. You don't have to make money. As long as you're breaking even, I'm good with it.
That's a similar thing that my husband told me.
Yeah. So this is Bill Nichols says hi. Hey, Bill.
Hi,
Bill.
So that's kind of what, and this was it's probably early last year, 2019. And so we decided we were going to go forward. Well, actually what happened then, I said, okay, if we're going to do it, I got to have some help. And Barb's like, I'm an accountant by day. I'm like, excellent. That's what. And so that was kind of one of the things is like, okay, we've got to have people pitch in. We can't just have people, popping in to do my comic and then, me doing all the work. And then, so I was like, people got to pitch in and do some stuff. And to my very happy heart, everybody's pitching in and doing stuff. and we launched the website last June, and that gets us to here, which we have all kinds of cool and exciting things to talk about. Before I dive in, anyone want to add anything to that?
No, the only thing I think I could add was that everybody who's jumped on board have been enthusiastic and so friendly, and it's basically a family atmosphere. They're all just saying, "What can I do to help?"
Yeah, and I think that's vital for us because I mean, we in the grand scheme of things, Silverline really we're the little guys, right? We can't you can't look at us and compare us in the sense of organization to certainly not a Marvel and DC, but not even the IDWs, the Dark Horses, the Booms, right? These places have offices and staffs, and yeah, I mean, you can see. Well, just look at the backgrounds of all of us, right? We're all of course, we are in the middle of the plague, but you know. That's
right. As most people have found out in this COVID area, you don't need an office.
No, it's true. That's true. We can all do what we're doing from here, and so that's kind of nice. But we're able to do it from here. Tom Romano says hi. Hey, Tom, how are you? Tom's an inker from way back when as well. I gotta remember to put the ticker up there. There we go. Now there's some Silverline information there. All right, so we're just gonna dive in. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Cat and Mouse first because it was the first one. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. There we go. Let me move this so you can at least see the Silverline logo in the background there. So the first thing obviously we did was Cat and Mouse. We did the Kickstarter. Geek Insider says, hello, Silverline, Roland, Barbara, Brent, and Scott. Hey, Geek Insider. Thanks for tuning in. One of the things that I wanted to make sure I did for Cat and Mouse is this is not the same characters from the late 80s and early 90s. I went through all of the considerations that I guess anyone does when they're like, okay, it's been 30 years. Am I really going to show characters that are 50 years old, or is that interesting? Do I want to do that? Or do comic characters age in real time? And that sounds like a whole other stream for us. But I went through that whole process of what do I want to do? And so ultimately I decided this has to be a fresh start. It can still exist in the world, but the comic has to be a fresh start. I just got to turn my email off here. And so that's what I did. So I came up with I wanted to have the same spirit and tone and mood. The setting is the same. It's still New Orleans. There's still a lot of the secondary characters. We're still going to see, for people who are familiar, we're still going to see, this was the Kickstarter exclusive cover for the first issue of Cat and Mouse. But we're still going to see Demon. There he is on the second cover. Knoich is a strong supporting cast member. And so there's still a lot of the world that is there, but our new Cat and our new Mouse are completely new characters that exist in this same world. So the question comes up, well, if Cat and Mouse didn't age, what about Demon? Yeah, it's comic books. that's my answer for that. He's
supernatural. He has an extended lifeline.
That's right. And so this series is set to be a 4-issue miniseries. We are finishing up issue 3. I think Barb said she was working on, just before we started, working on page 16, something like that.
It's something like
thereabouts.
It might be 18. Yeah. I know. In the late teens.
Yeah. So I know Alex told me that he's got about 2 or 3 more pages to finish up. So we are planning to kickstart that one if all goes on schedule. We're planning to kickstart number 3 in September. So yeah, let me make sure I get through all the covers here. So that was a Kickstarter exclusive. So we always have an exclusive cover for Kickstarter. So if you back the Kickstarter, you're going to get an exclusive cover. Now, that doesn't mean that the artwork won't be seen anywhere else. We might use it as a pinup in the book. We might use it. We might make a print of it to sell at shows. kind of a poster thing, but it'll never be like this artwork will never be the cover of a cat and mouse again. So that's hopefully one incentive for you to support the Kickstarters is to get these exclusive covers. Wubba says he's loving Cat and Mouse, super excited over stuff that you've written, really lit the artistic fire. Yeah, there's a whole story about Wubba that's going to come out a little bit later. I think that he knows a little bit of stuff. And so, yeah, so that was the Cat and Mouse. So following Cat and Mouse is the book called Kalis. Now I'm going to shut my mic off and I'm going to let Brent take over. Brent, but why don't you tell the story as well while you're talking about Kalis? Why don't you tell the story of me and you, kind of how it came about?
Sure. Well, let me see. A guy at church knew that I was interested in writing. I have kind of a screenwriting background. I've been doing that for the last 15 years or so. And he said, hey, I know a guy who has a comic book background. Do you have any interest in writing for comics? And what was weird was just a couple of weeks ago, I was just lamenting the fact that being a screenwriter means a couple of things. First, if you want to make a film that's exactly like the film you've written, you also have to direct it, produce it, and fund it, which is pretty much outside the realm of plausibility if you're talking feature film. But comics are different because then you can write whatever you want and all you have to do is find someone to draw. So I was like, I've read comics since I was 14. I've never stopped. It's probably made me less attractive to women in college, but somehow I'm still here. Oh yes, I'm sorry if I offended anyone. Anyway, so I was like, you know what? Why don't I just try writing comics? So I had Googled, and their comic scripts are pretty easy to find online, and I was reading those left and right. But then this guy introduced me to Roland, and Roland and I found out that we had a great love of comics in the 80s. The funny thing was, Roland knew all the insiders, the industry guys, and I was just a fanboy who cared about that stuff because, I don't know, I didn't have anything else to do in the 80s, I guess. So we had a lot to talk about, and he knew all the guys, and I was like, whoa, that's so cool. And we met at this restaurant in Orlando, Japan Express, and it was great. We would kill 3 hours just talking about that stuff, and it was just really fun. And then during one of those meetings, I said, well, I have this idea for a comic book. It's just a story about what happens if an astronaut goes to, it's kind of like the Superman story, but instead of an alien coming to Earth and having powers, what would happen if one of us went to another planet and got powers then? Like, would that change the kind of person he was? Would he be able to help the people there? And in my mind, it always ended up being that the astronaut made things worse, and I could never understand why. But the more I thought about it, the more this idea really started to germinate. And so I told Roland, I have this idea for these astronauts. Do you think maybe I have a shot at doing a comic book? And Roland said, hey, you write it, I will talk you through it. And so I showed him a couple of scripts, and Roland is very good at, what am I trying to say? Good critique. Basically, he's the reason why the first arc of Kalis is 4 issues instead of like 6 or some insane number. And the more I just started working on it, the more I was like, I think I have a really cool story here I want to tell. It started to get this, it didn't start out this way, but it really started to take on this X-Files kind of government conspiracy vibe, because the story doesn't take place on this other world. It takes place on Earth after this astronaut who disappeared back in the late 60s has reappeared on Earth. And the more I was thinking about this setup, I'm like, oh man, there's so many cool things I can do with this, and so many things I want to say about the nature of humanity, the nature of power, the nature of what happens to us when we try to keep power, all this and that. So finally, I said, well, I think I'm ready to roll on this. what should I do? And Roland told me about penciljack.com. And so I got on there and I said the magic words, I'm looking for artists and I have a budget. And suddenly I was getting submissions from all over the world, some of the best comic art I've ever seen, most of which didn't necessarily fit the material, but I almost wished it had, because there's some amazing artists out there. But the one guy that I just loved his work was, his name's Louis Chernowski, and he's an Argentinian. And he sent me some samples, and I said, can you draw this? And he drew that. And I'm like, hey, man, let's collaborate. So, he had a friend, Leandro Huergo, and he is the colorist on Kalis. And so we pretty much just started working since then. And the first Kickstarter was, what was that?
Well, hang on though.
Oh.
So sorry, you skipped a step there. Yeah, because you and I were still meeting and
yes. Yeah. So after I wrote the book and I got the art going, Roland said, well, hey, I'm starting up Silverline. Do you want how'd you like to get your book published with Silverline? And I was like, well, it sure beats my plan of throwing it in a drawer and forgetting about it and chalking it up to early midlife crisis. So I was like, that's such a cool thing. Yeah. And
if I remember, I think my question to you was, so what do you plan on doing with this? because you had gotten so much of it done.
Yeah.
And we had never really talked about we had only ever talked about the production of it. Yeah. And we had never really talked about what you wanted to do once you have it done. And so I just said, so what do you plan on doing with this? And you're like, well, I don't really know.
Yeah.
That's when I said,
what a weird idea. I'm supposed to do something with this? Yeah. Doesn't someone just start sending me checks in the mail? I was assuming that was going to happen. So yeah. That's what happened.
Yeah. Royal Airship said, I just read Kalis again last night. It's one of my favorites. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually,
very cool.
Yeah. It's my favorite comic I've ever done.
So Kalis is planned as a 4-issue miniseries. And if I understand, Brent, isn't 3 almost finished?
3, in fact, I just signed off on Lewis's inks for 3 for the whole schmear, all of issue 3, and Leandro is about halfway through. So
wow,
we'll be done. It's a matter of weeks. Yeah.
Wow, very very cool. Yeah. So because we are talking about the future as well, even though Kalis 3 and 4 are still in the future. Is there more Kalis? Do you have more Kalis in you?
You know what? I do. In fact, I feel bad for telling people it's a 4-issue series, because it's a 4-issue series that will immediately be followed by 5. But I understand that's
not issue 5. Yeah. Not issue 5, but another. It's not a Punisher 4-issue, 5-issue miniseries, right?
Exactly. So it'll be Kalis #1 of the second arc.
Right.
Guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have the story mapped out for quite a few issues, and I've always been adjusting down because it's taking a little longer than my original idea was. Mm-hmm. But frankly, that's okay.
Yeah. And we're still talking about this 5 number too, right?
Yeah. So.
or at least Roland still keeps talking to you about this 5 number, right? Are we sure about
5? Well, yeah, but suffice to say, it doesn't end with 4. The arc does come to a close in a very definitive way, so people won't be like, I feel cheated, or at least I hope not.
Right.
If they are, please let me know. I don't want anyone cheated here. But anyway, but yeah. So it's exciting, very exciting.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you, Brent. So after Kalis, the next thing we did then, we did our first. We got to having so many new stuff happening so many projects happening at the same time. We actually had to launch 2, and one of those is Divinity. in which Barb is the creator, writer, and co-writer and inker of that. So Barb, you wanna talk about Divinity a little bit?
Yeah.
Eric Dotson says, "What up, Silverline?"
Hi, Eric. I've been an inker for 30 plus years, and you spend a lot of time in the industry and you work on a lot of projects. I've worked on over 200 books. And there's always going to be those certain issues where you say, well, if I were doing it, I would do it like this, or I would take this character and do this. And as I was approaching the age of 60, I started thinking to myself, if I'm ever going to produce my own book and get my ideas out there, I better do it now. Because you're never too old to have fun. So I had been kicking around this idea for a very long time. I've always been fascinated with the concept of somebody who's been able to heal. And I've got family members that are ill, some very, very ill. And you always have that desire to make everything better. So this idea popped into my head, and quite suddenly, it was in a dream actually, of this little girl who has a near-death experience and gains the ability to heal. Now, she's the only one in the entire story that will have any special abilities. So this is not a superhero story. These are real people, and she will be the only one that has any special abilities. But she's got a half-brother, Zach. The little girl's name is Divinity, and she's got a half-brother named Zach who is currently deployed with the Marines. She's 13 years older than she is. And their parents die under mysterious circumstances, so he is given a hardship discharge and sent back home to care for her, and starts to question why his parents were killed or died. And that leads to a whole can of worms. And he finds out about her abilities, and they end up having to go on the run to keep her safe. And I mean, most people would think, wow, this is great to have an ability to heal. It would be a blessing. But if you really, really look at it, it can be more of a curse. I mean, if anybody finds out about this, you wouldn't be able to walk out your front door. You would have people lined up around the block. You'd be mobbed everywhere you went. There would be people wanting to get a hold of you. There would be evil governments that would want to get a hold of you. There would be mobsters and dictators. And what we finally settled on, myself and R.A. Jones, was having an overarching theme where we've got this evil cabal who is after Divinity. And while we have this overarching theme, we're going to have smaller stories and self-encapsulated, like you would see on a TV show, of her running into other issues and dilemmas along the way. And we decided to make it more like a road trip type of scenario, where she's always on the run from this evil cabal, but along the way they meet good people, they meet bad people, they meet the religious fanatics, or the pharmaceutical company that wants to kill her, or things like that. But once we got this hammered out, and I brought it to Roland, he says, "Okay, that sounds great. Go find yourself a penciler." And I'm like, "Oh, I've never done this before." So I started looking around on the internet for a penciler, and about that time, I had a young man from Mexico friended me on Facebook, and he sent me a private message, and he said, "I've always been a fan of yours, and one of my greatest dreams is to work with you someday." And I went to his Facebook page, and I looked at his stuff, and I was completely blown away. It was beautiful. And I sent him a message back, and I said, "How about right now?" And talked him into being my penciler on this, and it just kind of took off from there. Now, I'm a writer, but I'm not a scripter. I don't know how to script a book theatrically for the shots and stuff. I needed help for that. So Roland hooked me up with one of my old buddies from Malibu, R.A. Jones. And so he actually, I plot it, I create it, he scripts it out, and he takes the script and sends it back to me. I go over it, I make adjustments or make suggestions, or say, he doesn't have any little kids, so and I'm the mother, so I'll go, well, she's 11 years old. She wouldn't talk like that, or I make adjustments. And he'll go back and he'll work on it a little bit, and finally we'll come to an agreement on what the script is supposed to be. And then Alex will pencil it, I'll ink it, and right now we've got Steve Matson, who is an old pro at coloring. We have him hand coloring this book, so it's not your digital coloring on the interior work that you are so used to seeing. It's very, oh, look at that. This is the first time I've seen this. That is gorgeous. He actually hand colors that, which nowadays is very unique and boutique. So there's a first look at that. This is the first time I'm seeing this in the book form.
It's gorgeous.
So it's something I'm very proud of. It is.
Yeah.
It's something I'm very proud of. It's all ages. It's something that anybody could get something out of it. It's got family relationships. It's got action. It's got mystery. It's a little bit of everything. So I think anybody could get something out of it.
Yeah. And Eric Dotson said, looking forward to Divinity. He also said he missed out on Kalis and he needs to pick that up. Wubba said Divinity is so well done. It's an awesome book. And I agree with that. And it does look fantastic. So for those who are like kind of, well, I hadn't heard about that, or I missed the Kickstarter, they're going to be available on Indie Planet very soon. If you supported the Kickstarter, I got a message from Tommy over at Kablam, and he said he anticipates all the printing to be done. If not this weekend, he said maybe Monday or Tuesday. So I anticipate shipping to begin middle or late next week. So for all of you Divinity and Twilight Grim supporters, start looking for those, or looking for an update about that end of next week. But like I said, I got the proof copy in my hand, and it looks very, very good. So excited about it, and can't wait for you to get it. So Barb, this is going to be a 4-issue miniseries, right?
That's correct. The first arc is going to be a 4-issue miniseries, but there's a lot of stories to be told after that.
Well, that was my next question. So part of why we do these in the arcs like this is because, number one, we can collect them into trades, and the way our industry, the way our market goes now, these don't have floppies don't have a long shelf life, but trades do, and so we believe in this enough that we want to make sure that they're not just tossed out onto the racks and then tossed away when it's done. We're going to collect them into trades because we think folks are going to want to read these books for years to come, and we want to make sure they're able to do it. And so that was kind of my next question. Are there more stories beyond this 4-issue arc?
There are. There are more. We're going to leave this 4-issue arc with them riding off into the sunset to get away from the Cabal, which will open it up for their road trip, basically. So
Nice.
if you're a fan of like road trip TV shows like Supernatural, it's kind of like that. They're going to go off and have adventures, but all the while they've got this villain that's going to be after them.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
I actually sent PDFs of the book off to Maggie Thompson.
Yep.
And Kevin Van Hook. So if you don't know, he's the creator of Bloodshot with Vin Diesel, the movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I sent them off, and they both loved it. So I was very, very pleased with that. They gave it rave reviews.
Yeah, and Wubba said Divinity would be an awesome ongoing. So
exactly, that's the way it's designed.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting, and who knows what the future holds, right? As we kind of work to build this, you never know. It may yet be ongoing. So I'll talk briefly just about the other book that is a part of the flip book here with Divinity that should be start shipping next week, and that's Twilight Grim. And this is a book by R.A. Jones and Rob Davis. And for those of you who may remember, R.A. and Rob Davis were a team in the 80s, I guess. I can't remember if they got into the 90s or not, but certainly they were a team in the 80s. They did probably the most popular book that they did at the time. The most well-known was a book called Scimitar. A little bit adult, but it was a lot of people can remember that. But R.A. and Rob teamed up to produce Twilight Grim here. And it's a story of a city divided into two halves. On one half of the city, and it's divided by a wall, a little bit like Berlin was, right? So on one half, there's the haves. RA calls it the haves and the have-nots. So on the haves, it's just basically all the the affluent people. On the have-not side, it's a side ruled by vampires. They don't have any. There are very strict rules about vampires on the side with the haves, and there aren't that many rules for the have-nots. And this is a story of Twilight Grim is the character's name, and he's the kind of the justice dealer on the have-not side. He protects the people there from the vampires. So this one's also going to be a 4-issue miniseries. And from the last email I got from Rob Davis, he had like a page and a half to do on the pencils and inks. So it is almost finished as well. As far as the line work goes, Mickey Clausen is coloring that, and I don't have an update from Mickey on the colors for those. We've been keeping him busy doing other stuff. So so those are those books, and what we have currently kickstarting right now, and I'll make sure that I put links in there. But if you go to Kickstarter, you're going to see a Silverline Kickstarter for Friar Rush #1, which is the first issue of 3, and Bloodline one-shot. And Scott's going to tell us a little bit about those, if you don't mind, Scott.
Oh, sure. So
I'm trying to find the proper layout. Hold on here.
I'll talk. Bloodline. Both of them have a very underground 80s comic art feel and action feel, and they're a lot of fun. And I know Roland and Brent have both talked about those 80s style of comics, and those really speak to them. And it's really cool that they've taken that style and run with it. So there's Bloodline, and there's Friar Rush.
Yeah.
Bloodline is there's a world. There are vampires that are not behaving nicely, and so the hero there has to kick some butt, and it's a great butt kicking, action packed, bloody, not just a little gory. It's a great action comic with a lot of explosions, and if you like punching and blowing up and all that, and tough guys, it's a great action comic. Really, just a lot of fun. Just keeps moving, and keeps you gripped. Great page turner. Just a fun action comic that's gritty and a little dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. And then
so you recall? I was just gonna say, you recall it's based off of the short story.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's based off a short story that I think was originally published, and I may get this wrong, but I think it was originally published in an anthology called Under the Fang. And the short story is co-written by Robert Pettit and Sidney Williams.
Mm-hmm. Then do you want to move on to Friar Rush?
Sure.
Friar Rush is another darker story of a sinister character named Friar Rush, who the story we get a little glimpse of his past, where he came from in the Middle Ages. I can't remember if it's 14th or 15th century. I don't know if it really matters.
What's 100 years?
They didn't do a lot back then. So.
And we get a little glimpse, a little taste, and then we jump to a modern, and I think the exact date, maybe I need to look at it again. I think we're kind of ambiguous. It's modern, so close to current date, modern New Orleans. And there's what I love is I think, and I've not spent a lot of time in New Orleans. There's little hints of actual places, and it's kind of cool. Little glimpses in the background, and so Friar Rush was off the radar for a while, for those hundreds of years, and then he's back, and we follow again our hero who who gets caught up in what Friar Rush's his plot, and it's not just nefarious or sneaky, or it's bad stuff, and he's got an agenda to so he's a defrocked man of the cloth. He's no longer a man of the cloth, but he still apparently can use the name Friar, and he is bent on bad stuff. Yeah. So I don't want to tease too much. I don't know, Roland, if you want to say what he's up to, but he's got a plot to
it's an evil, nefarious demon plot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So again, a grown-up storyline, and not for the little ones, not a bedtime story for the little ones, and it's again a great.
Still very much a PG-13 book, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little blood and guts and a little bit of gore, but he's up to bat, no good, and a great page turner, a lot of action, a lot of those the sinister villain, and then the hero who's a little clueless at the beginning, and I don't know where that's going to go beyond.
Yeah,
I don't have the information beyond
3,
number
right?
1. Yep, I only know about number 1. I've only read number 1.
Yeah. So and this these two books are kickstarting. It's right now it is a joint Kickstarter, which is probably the way Silverline Kickstarters are going to be for the foreseeable future. Anyway, and of course, like all of the Silverline Kickstarters, it's the books are completely done.
Yes.
So as soon as the Kickstarter is finished, we'll wait and collect the money from Kickstarter, and then we'll use that money to place our order to print and ship the books directly to you. So really, it's just kind of a matter of time and processing. So there was something else I was going to say that it's just slipped my mind, and I've forgotten what it is. Okay, well, I've forgotten what it is now. But it was, I'm sure it was earth shattering, but yeah.
You'll think of it at 2 a.m.
I'll think of it when we're done. I'm like, oh man, that's what I was going to say. Right.
Well, we've got a merch store.
Yeah, we absolutely do have a merch store that I've run the it's running, the link is running under the stream now. I've run it kind of on and off as we've had the stream, and I'll make sure that in the appropriate places I'll put those links for you to go to. We're going to be constantly adding more stuff to the merch store, all of it in support of the books that we're doing. So please feel free to visit that store and get something off there and proudly wear your Silverline swag. And if there's something that you want to see on the merch store, please don't hesitate to tell us. Right? We can. Oh, Avon calling. We can work to get whatever you might be interested in. We can work to get that up on the merch store. I would say, please give us a little bit of time, but we can work to do that. So, all right. So that covers. I know what I was going to say. There is in this Kickstarter for Bloodline and Friar Rush, there is so much original art available. We've done several Kickstarters at this point, and we've had some really nice original art, but the entire issue of Bloodline, penciled and inked, is available. I think a couple of pages are gone already. But the entire book was available. The entire issue of Friar Rush, the entire issue of the Friar Rush pencils are available, as well as a handful of the inked pages. There is so much original art, and in fact, I just added some new pages, some new original art late last night. So you'll find the original pencils of this variant cover by John Martin. It is available, and you'll also find the original the cover to the Kickstarter exclusive by Stephen Butler. Oh, I can actually hold that one up and show you. It is actually penciled, inked, and colored all on the one page. I have seen artists do this for a long time. he's even got a note that he wrote on there to me when he was sending it to me. Ro, here's the cover and article. Call me, Steven. I have no idea what article it was, but he apparently sent me an article with this when he sent me the original. But it is very, very cool. This is very frameable. It's the original. I don't know what Steven uses. I think he used the Barrel Prismacolor markers when he colored this. It's the kind of thing you could see him do a lot at conventions. So there's so much original art. If you're a fan of original art, and if you're like, hey, I've always wanted some original art, this stuff is incredibly affordable. Great deals for original art, plus the comics. So check out the Kickstarter now if you get a chance. We're already over 60%. Hoping that by the weekend's over, I'm hoping, got my fingers crossed, it will be funded, and then we can work on some cool stretch goals that we've been talking about. So we got several other books in the works, but one that I want to talk about is called Steam Patriots. And Scott, were you able to dig up some artwork we can show while you talk about it?
Yeah, I got to click. So I've never done this share screen before, so I'll try my best. Shout at me if it's not working. Where do you want me to start? Do you want me to start with the idea for the story and so forth?
Yeah. So can you share?
Yeah, let's see.
Right,
I'll share my screen.
Yeah, share your screen.
My screen's going crazy. What do you see? Do you see it?
I don't see the share yet. I'll get a message on the platform here that says that you have shared, and then I'll be able to put it up. But I don't have that message here yet.
Share screen is easy. Share screen. Allow. I got to allow it.
Yeah. Got all kind of permissions you got to get.
Oh, I want to do my entire screen. Okay, here we go. You guys are going to see. It's going to be all in. I'm sorry. This is great video. Can you see it?
Not yet.
I don't know what it's telling me. Visible. Okay. Can you see anything now?
Yeah, it's coming. Here we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's
okay.
Crazy stuff right
I'll
there.
minimize that. Okay.
All right.
So we've got the opening here. Yeah, we got the opening here. This is page. This is the opening scene from Steam Patriots. So the story is a steampunk Revolutionary War retelling with the beginning of the war, and actually the beginning of a steampunk storyline. There had to be an origin. So my buddy of mine and I, Rory Boyle, we said we got to come up with an idea. Who could have started this steampunk world? Because everything takes place in the Victorian era. If we push it back, who could have done it? So we said, let's have Ben Franklin tweak the steam engine. He didn't invent it. We don't want to take away from anybody, but he tweaked the steam engine to make it not quite ubiquitous, but now an emerging technology. So our story begins. The Steam Patriots story begins at the Battle of Long Island, and we open with a steam carriage here and a guy riding. He's got these mechanical horses going, and so this is the opening scene. And I've teased a few of these, but I think this will be the first time anybody's seen the first full page of the opening here. And then I'll minimize that. So then we got a little bit we'll jump to the middle here. This is if I can zoom. Can I zoom? I don't know if this guy in the bottom right looks familiar. That's our Steam Patriots George Washington. And all of our art here, all of the pencils and inks are by a great, fantastic, amazing artist, David Mims, who's done multiple other projects, including a comic book called Scrimshaw, and that's where I found him. Love it. I love his art. So we got George Washington here, and this, I think this is the first time people have seen him too. So if you're watching, you're getting some cool sights here. George Washington there. Obviously, we don't have any lettering yet. We don't know what's going on. Oh, I know what's going on, but I don't want to give that away. And then the other big guy, the other big character who's not going to be in everything But so here's our big. This is the first time I've shown off the steam carriage with the electrical weapon. That's all I'm saying about that. But there's Ben Franklin. We got Ben Franklin there, and obviously we got to throw in goggles. If it's steampunk, you got to have goggles. And David drew a great Ben Franklin with his goggles and our steam carriage and some sort of weapon that's going to be part of the story. But you'll have to read to find out. So I think if I go back, how do I stop sharing? Stop. Okay. All right. So those are your teases. That's the art tease. And I'm not hearing anybody's audio right now.
Okay. So,
okay.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So what's the status of the first issue here?
So everything is penciled and inked by David. And then we've got everything plotted out for at least 4 issues, but we've got a great story arc here for this first 4-issue part story. So everything's penciled and inked, and then colors are coming soon. My buddy and cohort Dan Hosick will be coloring and lettering soon, and actually he could be as we speak. So that's where we are with all of the art. We do have a cover, and I don't want to show that yet because I want to do a big cover reveal sometime down the road.
Sure.
For our cover. And
maybe during a Wednesday Wham.
Well, we'll have to find out. Yeah. I want to tease that cover, and I want to do a big reveal because I love it. I love David's art. I love the energy. I love the facial expressions. So he's done a fantastic job. And he's done exactly what I wanted, because the Steam Patriots world, we wanted it to be the beginning of steam power. It's only slightly more convenient than a horse sometimes, so things break down. A lot of smoke, a lot of 4 or 5 levers to do one thing, that kind of stuff. It's complicated, but it's the beginning, so that if in the Victorian steampunk world, it would make sense that at the end of the 1700s, you have these clunky machines that are like I said, only slightly more convenient than horses and mules.
Very cool. So I have one other one that and that's Steam Patriots. And that's an upcoming book, and I've got one other one that I want to share as it's coming up, and it is a book called Trumps. Now, I always have to, in this political climate that we live in, I always have a tendency to really quickly grab my box of playing cards here and say that Trump's is not political. Okay, so it is kind of political in that it's a science fictional kingdom political kind of thing, but it's not political at all with like the current politics and stuff. It's kind of loosely based on a deck of playing cards, in that each of the kingdoms each suit from a deck of cards is a kingdom. So right now we're looking at, this is the King of Diamonds, right? You can see the diamonds here on him. He's red based, and that's the Queen of Diamonds in this. There's a story here, but she's in this big life preserving thing. And of course, this what we're on the outside here, we see the Kingdom of Diamonds here, and we see the Kingdom of Clubs. You can see the clubs on their uniforms. They're at war, right? You can see smoke there. So there will be no butt beards in this one. That's a term that the iNDEEvent asked me to include as an Easter egg for all of the streams. So I couldn't figure out any other way to work it in. But yeah, there are no butt beards in this one. I'm not even really sure what a butt beard is, and I'm not going to ask. But currently, this one is slated for September to kickstart with Cat and Mouse #3 if we can get it done. But one thing I want to go, we're running close on being out of time here, and one of the things I do know is that the iNDEEvent will move us. They'll boot us because the next panel has to start at 3:00, right? And if you've ever been at a real convention in a convention room when the next panel starts, they're like, "Come on, we got another panel. We got a panel. Y'all got to get out of here." So I do want to kind of go through really quick and just kind of highlight some of the other stuff that we're doing. One thing that we've started doing for some of the classics is that we're coloring them. So we're taking some of the comics that we talked about yesterday, some of the books from the early 90s and then the late 90s, and we're adding color to them. And we will reissue those. This is from Sirens, and it's actually being colored by Barb. Barb is doing an amazing job with these colors. It's just bringing a whole new level to this story that when you see it, you're just like, wow, what the heck? I've only ever seen it for all these years in black and white. And so to see what she's done with it is just incredible. So those are pages from Sirens. We're also doing Pendulum, and Pendulum is being colored by Roberta Conroy, who is another former Malibu Comics colorist, and she is also doing a fantastic job. Love all that fire there. Just the mood and emotion here. That's Pendulum. What else? This is Demon's Tales, being colored by, of course, if those of you who know will recognize Paul Pelletier's artwork. This one being colored by David Rios, who is another former Malibu colorist. And so it's looking very good. Of course, Paul's got an awesome career over at DC. And then this one is Switchblade, colored by Aidan Belcher, who is Mike Belcher's son. Mike Belcher is the creator of Man in the Mask, which we just found out is now available on Webtoons. Aidan is a pretty talented colorist. He colors all of Man in the Mask, and he has colored all of Switchblade. So Switchblade is actually ready. We haven't figured out exactly how we're going to bring all those to market yet, but probably what we're going to do is maybe some kind of Indiegogo where we put the trades together. And there are some other projects that are very early along in the works that we just I don't have a whole lot of artwork to show you yet. Barb mentioned that she was inking an unnamed project. That one's being penciled by Peter Clinton. It's a spinoff from Cat and Mouse Champion, who's been in several of the other Cat and Mouse, Demon's Tales, Silver Storm. He made appearances there. We've got a White Devil miniseries, which is written by R.A. Jones, and all 4 issues are penciled. I think we've got about 2 of the issues are inked, so I think we've got about an issue and a half to ink. And Chuck Bordell is finishing those, and we've got Elena Morton who is doing the colors. So that first issue should be ready fairly soon. And there are just some other things that are still early in the process that just too early to talk about yet. But thanks, Barb. Thanks, Brent. Thanks, Scott, for being here today and talking about your projects. Y'all don't forget that Silverline streams 3 times a week. We stream on Sunday nights. Our Silver Sundays, we have a gaggle of us there. We stream on Wednesday nights. There's another gaggle over there on Wednesday nights. We talk about the same things because we want to give you, we know a lot of the stuff is interesting to you. And so you're like, oh no, they talked about character, but I wanted to hear what he said about character or what she said about character. So we try to talk about the same things so that we can get everybody's opinion in. And then on Mondays, we have Silverline One-on-One, where we just sit down with one of Silverline creator at a time and just pepper them with all kind of questions about their life, their career, their influences, all that kind of stuff. This Monday, we're going to be talking to Aaron Humphreys, who is the penciler of Friar Rush, finding out all about him. So please tune in. Ask us lots of questions. We love to address your questions. I've navigated away from the questions. Let's see here. Eric Dotson said, Butler rocks. He did a cover for us, too. Several great job, Barbs. Great job, Barbs. One True Villain says great job, Barb. Eric said that. Thwip says, are you guys going to be releasing digital editions onto Comixology? Sorry if this has already been answered. I'm late to the party. Also, hi guys. At this point in time, not planning to do that. Long story short, won't get into it because our clock is ticking. But we're not really seeing any returns on Comixology, and I don't know of any people who really are. So no plans for that. The only way you can get the digitals right now are if you get the digitals for through the Kickstarters. Tom Romano says, "Hey, I know that book. Of course you do, Tom. You inked the first 24 pages of it." Billy Bouncer Stream Sniper donated 15 something. I'm not sure what that is. Brent, wake up. Tom says, what time Sunday nights? See, Michael already said, 9 Eastern. So all of our streams start at 9 p.m. Eastern time, which would be 6 p.m. if you're on the West Coast. So we're out of time. I'm sure they're kicking us off now. So thank you all so very much for joining us. We're excited.
Make mine Silverline.
Make mine Silverline. That's right. Goodbye, everyone. See you on our streams.